Please come forward so the empty space can be filled to make a better view from this side. And from everybody that hear my sound still in the outside, please come inside because we running out of time. So Bernie can start the session.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to this plenary session of the 55th World Planning Congress ISOCARP. Thank you for still being in this conference, and I see that's so many of you, and this is very encouraging because I think we are going to be here for another 5 days. Are you ready? It seems like everybody enjoying this so much, and we have still a full room until today at 4 o'clock. But anyway, give a... So, again, welcome back. We are now starting the end of almost the end of the program for the last 5 days. I think we have last 4 days. We have a lot of fun, and I think some of our young planning professional has been here for a while by now. Everything is very excited. Let me just now to start our plenary this afternoon. I would like to invite our General Rapporteur, Martina, to take us through what we have accomplished what you have accomplished and what we all have accomplished in the past 4.5, 5 days. Martina.
Do you have a clicker? Yeah. Is there a clicker?
Just go next.
Okay, this sounds familiar. And also, yeah, otherwise I don't see. Can I have the presentation on the screen? In the meantime, I was told, first of all, when you do when I was invited to be the General Rapporteur, I was told it's not a lot of work, and that was not true. And then I was told, oh, don't worry about the closing, because normally not many people are there. Look at you. So I just hope we get the presentation so that we can get going. Anyway, in the meantime, possibly, just can all of the track leaders come on the stage, please? Can all of you track leaders, Helen, Tathagata, Fedor, please come on the stage. Piotr, Nasim, Jens, come. Okay, I've been told this might work? No? Can I have the next slide, please? Okay, right, so maybe the slides are over there, so... No, stay in front of stay, so that they can see the slides. So what I would like to do is just to give space to the track leaders one by one to just say a few words, just 2 minutes each, about what happened in their track. I have been around all the time, incessantly, from track to track to track to track, and I have the feeling that I think I have witnessed about 10% of what happened during this week. Loads went on, so there is no better persons that the track leaders to say at least what happened in their track is the best way to understand what went on. So it would be good to have a clicker in the meantime, and the first, yeah, okay.
Always have to do that. If track one were a city, Jane Jacobs would be very pleased because we had a massive diversity of age, ethnicity and background. But the one thing in common was the amazing intellect and passion that all of the speakers displayed. Next slide. 4 quick takeaways. RAM2, rapid and massive third world urbanisation is the major challenge for planners for the next 30, 40 years. Secondly, transit-oriented development requires a high degree of skill. Okay, don't assume that you have that skill just because you know what TOD stands for. Read, visit, learn. There's a lot to know because every little bit has to work perfectly for TOD to be a success. Urban sprawl is bad enough, but precarious forms of settlement and enclave developments make it much worse. New technology brings hope. For example, parametric analysis that enables accurate interventions to optimize energy use and generation in neighborhoods. Fantastic stuff. But the important thing about all of this tech is how do you scale it? Do you repeat it at the same scale, like neighborhood by neighborhood by neighborhood? Or do you find a way to take it up in scale from neighborhood to district to city to region to metropolis? That needs to be thought about for every different technology. Slide. Slide. Where are we? Next slide. There, thank you. Finally, a lovely diagram that illustrates the need to move from vampire megacities that suck the blood out of the regions around them to friendly polycentric regions that work in harmony. Thank you very much.
Okay. In track 2, we explored what lies besides the megacities, the secondary cities, the small towns, and the rural-urban interface, the peri-urban interface. The 3 days of discussion passed off very nicely, and the last session we had the maximum amount of energy, which is kind of unthinkable on the last day of the conference. So what, the next slide please. We discussed that the main important elements are that we need to emphasize on the type of urban change that's encompassing the world. I mean, it's driven by Asia and Africa, and where there is a large youth population, and we need to focus on the livelihood opportunities for the youth to generate jobs closer to their places of home. Then we need to also encourage local cultural practices and the unique local attributes, but also at the same time exchange flows of ideas and information from different parts of the world, so that, I mean, local ideas get stimulated. There is a need to strengthen the interfaces and interdependencies between the secondary cities and the primate cities and the rural areas and the urban areas. So the megacities should not be seen in isolation, but rather part of an overarching settlement system where cities of different scale has got different type of functions to do. And we need to prioritize development of small and medium-sized towns, which frequently get overlooked in the policy dimensions by different governments. And we need to encourage, just as it was mentioned in the track 1, we need to encourage a new spatial model, look beyond the rural and the urban in a binary terms, and look rural and urban as a continuum. The next slide. We need to encourage development of network cities to network regions, looking beyond the cities, from monocentricity to polycentricity, from rural-urban dichotomy to rural-urban continuum, as I just mentioned, and from megacity urbanization as a new focus of the global policy praxis. But that megacity does not mean that a city in isolation, but part of a region. Thank you.
So we conclude the track 3 with 5 key takeaways. And the track 3, which talked about planning for healthy cities, planning for cities and communities, we turn back to the roots of urban planning, which find their origin in public health. And we say that urban planning needs to realign with its roots and needs to move forward with healthy planning. Then the second takeaway for us was that the healthy planning for Asian cities specifically, which have a larger proportion of young population and gender gap, we need to focus on spatial equity, we need to focus on data-driven analytics and monitoring tools while we align our financial models, our planning and the design policies. The third takeaway for us was that when it comes to multi-generational places and spaces, The planning needs to focus on walkability and connectivity, social safety, and the third was clean and connected transportation. The fourth takeaway, can we go to the next slide, please? The fourth takeaway is that city planning needs to go hand in hand with citizen planning, and in this, we need to co-design, co-produce, and co-manage spaces to transform them into places with citizens, especially the children, because if you're planning for children, you're actually planning for an inclusive city for all. And the fifth takeaway, it's actually the answer to the track, which is that there is no one answer to planning for healthy cities, because it has various dimensions, it has various perspectives, and we cannot say that one solution would fit all. So that is the conclusion.
Hello to everyone again, and I appreciate your attendance here. In track 4, we have some sessions, 7 sessions, and we discuss about the culture and identity and how we can improve culture and identity in the cities. And actually there is a very big problem to how to keep culture and how to keep identity in modern cities in a contemporary age. And but we know that we cannot create identity. We should keep identity and improve identity in the cities, and but there is no unit model to how respect identity and culture in our planning. Everywhere in every place of the world have different locality, have different features, and the answer to this question will be different and difficult both. And so as an architect, I know that we should consider the culture of each space in that each place in that space in each urban planning in every scale. And actually, but I should be mentioned that in recent ages, especially, I think, would you please to go to the another? This is a very this is a very difficult problem, of course, that how we can maintain this identity in recent cities, in cities that are being modern, and in the modernism, how we modernism age, how we can keep culture, how we can keep valuable features in our cities and our settlements and our countries as well. Thank you so much.
Yes, about track 5, Smart Futures and Sustainability. Before giving you some insights, I would like to express my gratitude to the colleagues that helped me in the moderation of the track, and especially Awais Piracha, who couldn't come, unfortunately, but was the appointed moderator, and Dorota. She helped me in chairing all the sessions. And then a special thanks to the local supporters and experts, Meliana, Abdullah, and Ridwan, who helped us in stimulating a very interesting debate with all the delegates, and of course the delegates that joined our sessions and contributed. So smart futures and sustainability, planning for innovation, that was the main theme of track 5. There was a great support of different ideas and many teams that went through this concept. The richness of the content, it was very difficult to bring in only a few bullet points. But however, we decided to keep these 4 main points for further discussion. We are going to operate as planners in a very data-rich environment. Big data, analytics, a lot of inputs that may help us in shaping real-time responsive urban policies. This is one of the key points that we would like to stress in the future discussion. Even though data-driven policies may not be the right word to express this new wave, we should think about innovation as the key point that will help us in shaping the urban agenda in the next years. The second point, yes, smartness, but don't forget sustainability, because the two pillars should be kept together in order to achieve all the long-term goals that we are going to set up and we want to pursue in the next years. Only in this way we could deliver regenerative measures and help cities to become even more better. Next slide, please. Third, probably the main suggestion for those falling in love with technologies, smart gadgets are not enough to succeed. We need to bring the intelligent application of all technologies into the co-creation, co-design processes in order to satisfy citizens' needs and not just to fill all the cities of sensors and a new technological gadget. Fourth and last point, interoperability and integration, because a smart solution will allow us to do that, but we need to think about that in advance and not just to try in the end to make our new ideas fit into the existing networks, grids, and services. And that's all. Thank you.
Okay. I'm reporting from track 6, and first I want to say thank you to Martina. I'm sticking to 3 bullet points, but I have 4 slides, so thank you for that. We were investigating basically nothing else but climate change and what how we can handle that, how we can actually deal with that. Can I have the next slide? And as a matter of fact, climate change is happening, and human beings, we as city dwellers, actually already start responding to this. This is a picture from Paris of this summer, and people actually repurpose the city in an unexpected way. So climate change, next slide bit, please. Climate change means nothing else but one world's death, but it's also another world's birth, which means, in terms for planning, nothing else that we actually have to rewrite the manual for spaceship Earth. As simple as it sounds, as complicated it actually is. And in our session, we kind of discussed from the causes of climate change across how we deal with that in cities and the role of people, and finally concluded with a series of planning tools that we could actually utilize. Next one. We kind of broke it down essentially to 3 findings, 3 conclusions on what we as planners actually have to do. First, we have to embrace a much more holistic and complex planning approach and actually adjust our planning and policy systems to that, because so far we've largely been working with engineering solutions, individual projects which solved one problem but typically created a lot of others in other places. So we actually have to look at the phenomenon, the effects of climate change much more holistically. We have to give the local and the locals a much more important role in planning, because in the past actually cities all developed their own local vernacular and their own solutions of dealing with the conditions they're in. Only when kind of development kicked in, a lot of that knowledge actually gets pushed to the back, and air conditions and all these kind of things kind of take over. It's important to actually keep this history alive, this vernacular alive, and we actually have to bring that a lot more back into the planning. The same is true for people. Local people are the experts in solving the daily problems in their city. So we actually have to work a lot, plan a lot more with them than actually for them. And finally, I think we have to understand cities as part of a global ecosystem and not the antidote, because planning to a large extent still is, kind of claiming land from nature. But I think we have to start kind of seeing the city as part of a nature and actually make this a driving principle in whatever plan and whatever planning undertaking we are embarking in. And with these 3 things, I hope we kind of manage to deal with the effects of climate change in that one generation we basically have to get things right. So actually time is pressing, and I concluded the last session, let's keep starting, because we're only at the start of this. Thank you.
In track 7, we started with urban governance and the planning profession, but we moved away from urban governance to metropolitan governance during our discussions. We had rather intriguing, thought-provoking discussions which were assisted by local experts. She's currently not, she's somewhere in the audience, as well as some special sessions from the American Institute of Architects, and as well as the UN Habitat, and would like to show appreciation for their input. Further on, the previous themes that were presented, they will all not be able to manifest without proper management and governance structures, and that is why track 7 is sort of pivotal for this kind of a discussion. And with that, what we want to say is we'd like to encourage the inclusion of soft corporations for coordinating metropolitan policies and strategies. This will then ensure that there is enough participation as well as communication within the different authorities that are involved. So we emphasize on the point of soft cooperation. The hard cooperation is basically inevitable. We cannot do without it. And would also like to pose a specific a point towards Indonesian in terms of Indonesian metropolis to be able to implement metropolitan planning strategies that will serve as your platforms for your knowledge sharing, as well as platforms to support public debate and urban innovation, and to prepare the metropolitan policies and strategies. We also try to look into what is considered as this kind of a transformative capacities that will enhance collaborative metropolitan planning. And I would just like to emphasize that most of these points, they come from the different speakers, and they were somehow drawn together just to send out the message from the whole track. And then to encourage that we, as much as we want to shy away from the concept of informality or informal settlements, we are to plan for the future of informal settlements. And in Indonesia, we have heard about a various number of cases where that is somehow next door, it's next to us. So we need to plan for that, and that is somehow the challenge that we as planners are faced with. And just as a round of, we had a little discussion within the track that left us thinking, and it came from one of the first speakers, which sent out this question of, when we want to talk about governance, are we talking in the context of cross-border or trans-border? Which one is it that we necessarily want to position ourselves with? And in addition to those 4 points, next slide please. We have this image that was also stolen from a presentation by the Deputy Governor from the Jakarta area. And basically this is just to show that in Jakarta they have sort of the structures in place. They have the management structures, the governance structures, but with those structures there is obviously some kind of lack of coordination here and there, some kind of working in silos there, here and there. There are different areas that they want to polish, which then the Deputy Governor brought to the track, which he termed as fragmented governance. So it's something that we want to send out there to the broader participants of ISOCARP to consider, and then maybe when you are collaborating in your future collaborations with the Indonesian counterparts, you can then bring some recommendations as well on top of what we have recommended as a track. Yeah. Thank you.
I just would like Mahak, Jalili, and Helen just to say one word each. They were young planning professionals last year, and now they were track leaders this year. Mahak nearly got appointed to the board. She was not quite elected, but nearly. So just, do you want to say a word?
One word? I just want to say thank you. Thank you to all your you guys, and it's quite a big leap for me. Actually, it's quite a big leap. Last year, I was a YPP, and also I took part in the UPAR workshop in China, in Ningbo. And I learned a lot, really. And I also made a lot of friends here. So I'm enthusiastic about all the events of ISOCARP. And I'm a true lover, just as I said to Martin just now. So I will be supportive of all the events of ISOCARP in the future, and hope to meet you in Qatar next year. Thank you.
Allow me to say 3 words. How I come to know about ISOCARP was I almost didn't make it to the YBP, but then some divine intervention ensured that I made it to the YBP in Buda. So that was my first experience with ISOCARP. And then something told me there's more to YPP, what is there? And then that's how I volunteered myself to sign up for the Congress team. I was not expecting to be standing on the stage today. And with that, I would like to encourage all the YBPs that were part of this year's team. It was such a large group, and I think we can have at least 4 or 5 of us on the stage in Doha next year, at the next year's conference. So, yeah, so please, there's a lot of learning, there's a lot of self-discipline, there's a lot of experience deeper than the one that you get in your workplace. And this is a wealth of experience that is standing behind me, and I just told myself I'm gonna tap as deep as I can into this. Thank you.
Well, first, thank you to Helen and Jenna for giving the spoiler alert that it's going to be Doha. So anyone who didn't know that it's going to be Doha, Qatar next year, ISOCARP is going to Doha. So to the YPP members, I would strongly encourage to be a part of any activity of ISOCARP. It's a great learning experience. It may seem a lot of work, but at the end of the day, it's a great journey to be a part of. Yeah.
But yeah, not so formal, come on. Come together? Yeah, come a big crowd. Can we go back to the slide that it was? And I would like now to invite our Indonesian colleagues that helped with the tracks to come on the stage. And I think Teti is presenting. Please come on the stage. The floor is yours. It's now.
Good afternoon, late afternoon, everybody here. I'd like to call a colleague, a local expert or the Indonesian expert, to come forward here, who are still around. Pak Uki might not be here at the moment, as well as Pak Budi. Pak Hari is not around as well. But I'd like to call up Pak Adiwan. Is Pak Adiwan around here? Pak Haji? Pak Irwan? Bu Dias? Mas Koko? Haria Setiaka is not here. Irul? Pak Apul, Faisal, Pak Faisal, Meli, Bu Meli, oh ya, Bu Ratna, and myself. Okay. We have a lot more young Indonesian experts who join in its track, and I'm so happy that these are some of the young colleagues that involved in the in its track and helping out interpreting the track, and for our proposed meaning that it's also interpreted for the Indonesian context. And so I'd like to thank these gentlemen and ladies to be with us tonight, to be with us today, and following until the end of the meeting. But I guess we go to the next slide to present our result. Then this next slide would be a summary of the 7 tracks in 2 pages. This conference for us will bring an assurance and confidence to planners in our country, to Indonesia, that planning continue to be an important framework to engage in urban development and city form, especially in a context where discussion on planning dominated by infrastructure development, mega project, or the relocation of capital cities. So this gives another realization. And the second is that mega cities in our context can be treated as an organism that requires specific management, and that expansion or sprawl represent negative as well as a positive aspect of cities. We don't say that sprawl basically acceptable, but we do say there are several positions as to why it happens and why it continues to happen. And there is a need to mediate that recognize the humanized scale of mobility, such as pedestrian, TOD, mass transit, as well as specific approach to mobility. The third thing that we think that is important is the recognition of government-driven plan that has been a way of doing things. So, but it has to go hand in hand with the engagement of various stakeholders in planning, not only for public participation, but also for instigating public discourse that often lead towards community activism, including engaging private sectors to raise awareness of their participation as part of the community members. Theirs will help with the contextualization of new ideas and innovation. Advancement in communicative technology as well as the internet bears to the emergence of a different planning style that is adaptive, responsive to the dynamic nature of urban realities. With the limited capital that are available in developing countries, especially to engage in participation in advanced technology, we rely on innovative approaches that happens at a small scale, local scale, that contextualize for the local needs, that in the end bring results and real benefit to the affected communities, cutting the boundaries set by the administrative system. The fifth thing is that capacity building among planners as well as cities bureaucrats continue to help improve planning system, and that continue to be an important part of the future of planning. Next slide, please. It's still the same thing, but oh, okay. Oh, that's it? Do a slide, yeah. Oh, I think it's, yeah, it's all the same. Yeah, okay. Wait, I have to find that out. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry, I have to find it in my cell phone to take a look at the, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I have it. The other The other important issues for us is that spatial pattern emerges in metropolis, such as in a form of urban sprawl, extra high density, provide a different understanding of how forces often economic in nature give meaning to the existence of other groups of society. Some are positive, many are negative. We look forward to contextualize them based on the needs for equality and positive productivities. And lastly, metropolitan management need to promote network and a unified governance that allow for decentralized, small-scale innovation, community activism, and more importantly, private sector to engage in recognizing the interests, their interest in creating metropolis. And the bodies of metropolitan management continue to be needed. I think that's all for us, and thank you for your attention. Thanks.
The next slide. No, just the blue, the one with the blue part. That one. Okay, so here I just try to summarize from my own perspective the things that I've been hopping in between tracks. So this is just a collection of random things that I noted down in my book, which is full of notes. So if you can go to the next slide. Personally, I thought that track 2 that focused on what happens just outside the metropolis was very interesting and raised for me thoughts that I didn't have. You know, what happens in that land that it is in between, that is no city and is no rural, and what are the policies and the opportunities that that brings. But there was this nice statement, to move into the future, we have to look at the opportunities and stop extrapolating the problems of today. If we look at the problems of today, we are not moving, we are already looking at the past. We have to look into the future and work back from that. I thought that that was a lovely statement. Next slide. The whole theme of children was a fantastic one. And of course, Jens has further activities tomorrow around that, which are gonna be even more. But this quote that is not exactly, was quoted, is a second-hand quote in this Congress, but children are a kind of indicator species. If we build a successful city for children, it will be successful for everyone else. So I thought that that was a lovely statement. The next slide. We had this discussion in a number of ways, and we called it billboard planning, or the fascination with what appears in big renderings, big pictures, big flashy master plans, without necessarily, that don't have a relationship necessarily with the people that live into the city. There was this lovely paper from Cairo showing a bridge in Cairo with 200 billboards on one single bridge, all written in English, all with flashy buildings, and the people traveling on the bridge don't speak English. Some of them are not even able to read, but they're sold this dream, and that dream sometimes is a fantasy, is not a reality. So the grand story will be revealed soon, and maybe the soon it never comes. But also there were a lot of discussion on a poor understanding of what architects and investors and the private sector can actually contribute to create a city that is more equitable, more rooted in the reality of places. And also how we can, what we need to outsource, called international consultants, the international designers, the signature ones, but also what we need to insource, what we need to do in-house, and use that to lead the change of the city, of our cities. The next slide, please. This were the theme of participation, inclusive. If a city needs to have culture and identity, of course, cannot be done without understanding the culture and identity of the place. So this was mentioned several times throughout the Congress in many tracks and in many different, by many different people. But I like this theme or this concept of the transformational capacity empowering deviant agencies. And deviant agencies means the local people, but people that can think outside the box. And for me, as a consultant, I want to be a deviant agency. I don't want to be a helpful deviant agency, not a billboard selling empty dreams. So I think this was a very interesting thought for me, particularly. Next slide. Informality. Informality, I think there is a theme of informality as a problem, but also the speed of informal development. The speed and articulation and flexibility is something that sometimes rigid planning procedures, bureaucratic planning, is not quick enough. So on one hand, it cannot prevent sprawl, and on the other hand, it doesn't have the liveliness and the variety, the resourcefulness of informal development. So what is it that we can learn and mimic and use in terms of flexibility and speed from informality? Next slide. And you will all remember the snakes and the worms of the presentation by Pedro Ortiz. And of course, we are not just talking about plans. The plans need to come with governance, finance, capacity building, collaboration, different scales, different size of planning, depending on the scales. So don't confuse the worms with the snakes. Next one. Now, for me, these are just a few slides, so I will be saying next, next, next quite quickly. These are just my takeaway. I was in, no, just the one before. Okay, this I just want to bring to England. One night, this is the bus lane. The bus lane was the market. Next slide. This was 3 seconds later. The market disappears, the bus can go through. And then the market creates itself again right behind. I thought that this was fantastic. I'm not sure it's efficient. For sure, it will never be allowed in London, but it was a very beautiful thing to see. The next slide, even again, for my British home base, people having picnic on political billboards. This is what I would like to do now. Next slide. I gained myself the fame of being the police. When I was walking into a track, I could see the track leader sort of like stiffening up and thinking, oh no, she's here, now she's gonna say, you're not on time, you have to have a debate. I'm really sorry. Click, just one click. I'm really sorry, but some of you had even a whistle to signal the change from one to other. So I was not the only one. Next slide. And there was lots of fun. This is the ISOCARP run, and a lot of fun. Next slide. And also the ISOCARP dancers, and the next slide, and the ISOCARP eaters and chatters. Next slide. Not so fun. The clicker has been a problem since the beginning. And a very stressful thing, but there you go. But also very interesting other sort of like the traffic, the noise, but somehow how the city works is interesting and is exciting, how you cross the street without even stopping the traffic, but it works. Another slide. And of course, visiting and us, this Congress. I've been let out of this hotel very little, I must say, but that's, this was beautiful experiences as a group. Next slide. And of course, a little bit more in the tunnel at the TOD project. Next slide. And of course, talking and debating. Next. And wonderful speeches and wonderful interventions. Next. And the best singer in the whole of the ISOCARP, and beautiful intervention. This is Pavarotti voice, but also very strong intervention and participation, of which I'm glad. Next slide. And of course, the energy of all of the young people that participated. And just one more click. Well, thank you very much. For me personally, it has been a wonderful experience, and I cannot thank enough Slavek for having believed in me, having given me trust, never have lost faith, and yes, thank you so much.
I think it has been months of preparations and a really, really excellent reporting, and I think we owe another big hands for Martina. Thank you. Thank you for having this program, such a great program. Another part of the conference, which is another side of the conference, is that the Indonesian Associations of Planners are able to conduct meetings of mayors alongside this conference. I'm asked by Slavek to give a little bit of reflections of what we did in Bogor. So basically, the Indonesian Associations of Planners every now and then, on a regular basis, started a caucus of mayors, of Indonesian mayors, where we get mayors together in one room and discusses about issues on planning. This time around, alongside ISOCARP, we had 30 mayors joining us in Bogor, and we talked about several issues around achieving the SDG goals. And it was a lovely experience, and I think one thing that I can report to you is, I think if we have the right way of communicating with our politicians, our political stakeholders, our mayors, I think that we can achieve a lot. Last week, or earlier this week, when we had the caucus, we were able to sit down with those mayors and have them agreed on several issues. And one of the important issues also the fact that mayors, including mayors from the city that is going to be the new capital, are excited about the planning process and the fact that they starting to understand that there is us. There are this group of planners that are willing to help our mayors to achieve their goals. And I think that's a little bit of a reflection from our mayor caucus. For the next, I think I would like to invite Didier to share with us what we have achieved and what we can share with the general public, with you all, and with the rest of our stakeholders back home. What do we bring from Jakarta in terms of declaration from this group? Didier, time's yours.
Thank you all. Thank you all. What is it there? Okay, good. So after all these efforts and time and knowledge and thinking exercises, we thought that it would be good to have a declaration. It would be good to have an official paper telling the world what we are thinking and how we would like to act. I don't need to have a pointer, but it would be nice to have the document also on the screen. So thank you to all the tracks leaders, thank you to Martina, thank you for all this inspiration and all the contributions. So we were trying to synthesize all this knowledge and all this accumulated knowledge into one single document, 2 pages document. And this is going to be posted on the website and on social media, I think in the next minutes. So you will be able to read it also on your smartphone, so be smart. First of all, I would like to read this document with all of you. We are entering the century of the metropolis. Global metropolitan urbanization is facing enormous challenges, primarily due to the effects of the current economic development model that makes cities less affordable and unsustainable. Precarious urban informality is increasing at a fast pace due to inadequate legislative, regulatory, institutional, and financial frameworks. The management of metropolitan areas is the main challenge for governments, urban professionals, and civil societies. Urban professionals, all of us, are the key actors to support both decision makers and civil society to build the essential frameworks and make cities, large cities, affordable, inclusive, resilient, sustainable, and safe. The 55th ISOCARP conference in Jakarta, September 2019, has mobilized collective intelligence of high-level international and Indonesian urban professionals to propose solutions for planning the metropolis. And then we have 12 recommendations. I don't know if we have time to read all the recommendations, but I would like to highlight some very important key messages out of it. First message, we advocate good urbanization and sustainable cities are the engines for prosperity, wealth, and better quality of life. This is also related to the metropolitan areas as a significant contributors to the GDP of each country. Point number 2, we call upon all national and local governments to assist other countries in embracing good and sustainable urbanization, promotion of carbon-neutral urban development, and the care of natural resources. Number 3, to move into a more sustainable future, we need a new planning paradigm and a new model of city making focused on transformative capacity, equity, and speed. This has been mentioned also in several tracks. Number 4, we ask local and national governments to create and strengthen territorial and metropolitan technical bodies engaged in advancing governance, knowledge sharing, public debates, urban innovation, and policy making. Number 5, we believe that the planning of new future cities, metropolises, and megacities is not just about numbers of people, functions, and jobs. It is about working strategically across government levels and scales, from territorial to neighborhood, from national to local neighborhoods, from formal and informal, from macro to micro. Number 6, we advocate treating large cities as integrated parts of a wider ecosystem where solutions can be identified at systemic level and through the use of local intelligence for identifying local sensitive climate adapted solutions before resorting to alien engineering approaches. Number 7, we recognize that without a strong network of interlinkages and interdependencies to the region, a megacity cannot be sustainable. We thus highlight the need for better spatial justice between megacities and their hinterlands to support towns and rural areas. Has been also mentioned here in tracks. Number 8, we believe that urban planning should support the growth of individuals, accompanied by equitable investments at a smaller scale, where public spaces and collective facilities turn into places, co-designed, co-produced, and managed at the neighborhood level, and particularly with children. Number 9, we believe that anyone involved in changing cities should aspire to enhance local culture and identity and potentially create a new heritage for the future with real foundations in endogenous values. Number 10, we embrace new technologies which support and augment urban intelligence and capacities or capabilities, including solutions which improve livability, equity, and transparency. Number 11, we encourage using the tools, methodologies, and platforms advocated and created by international professional organizations and NGO partners, such as the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, their system of indicators, as you know, and the new urban agenda to move towards metropolitan areas that matter and no one left behind. And finally, number 12, we encourage both national governments and financing institutions to streamline administrative hurdles, risk management, and provide the organizational framework that allows complex and multi-level collaborations, including integrated urban investment finance. This is a joint statement and a joint document, declaration, of the International Society of City and Regional Planners and of the Indonesian Association of Urban and Regional Planners. So this is We both are eager to support the Indonesian decision makers and the citizens, together with the local urban professionals, to envision and contribute to the future development of the Indonesian metropolis and beyond, including the new capital city, and recommend approaching the complex challenge of managing the metropolis with humility and with the respect for people and natural resources. So we propose, as ISOCARP, to disseminate this declaration together with our Indonesian partner by all means, all levels, including the global levels and the United Nations level. Thank you again for all the tracks, all the contributions, all the knowledge you shared with all of us. And yes, looking forward. Thank you very much.
Almost there. We're almost there. We're almost dinner. But the main program is just getting ready to come. Before we continue, there is a little bit of announcement. There's a lost key and USB. Mohammed Zia, where are you? Mohammed, yeah, you lost keys and USB. So if anybody looking for Mohammed, please over there. Yeah. Okay. Next is probably one of the main important program for this afternoon is for us to introduce the host of the next ISOCARP 2020, beautiful, 2020 Congress. And for that, I would like to invite Mr. Fahad Al-Katani, Assistant Undersecretary of Urban Planning Affairs, Ministry of Municipality and Environment of the Qatari government.
Good afternoon, everybody. Mr. Martin, ISOCARP President, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. I am honored to host the coming ISOCARP Congress in Qatar 2020. You will have a great chance to see how Qatar is getting ready to host the coming FIFA World Cup of 2022, which is a very important event for the whole Middle East. Before I finish my speech, I want to thank ISOCARP and Indonesia for excellent event. Finally, we welcome all you. Finally, we welcome you all in Qatar 2020. Thank you. Shukran. Can we start now the video?
Thank you very much. That was beautiful. Can you stand over there? So, thank you. Oh, that was good. And I think since there's going to be the World Cup coming soon, I have to pass some balls to you. And this is Andy. You have the ISOCARP, really interesting, good from the local chair. Andy, yeah. I would like to invite Martin to come over and for a photo session for the next ISOCARP. I think you should put all that. Pass it to you. After this, there was a big dinner. The governor is so kind to welcome us by the beach. Jakarta have a beach, you know, and it's quite nice. And the food this evening will be great. So I have to see you all. The bus will be ready. What time? Oh, okay. So the bus will be ready for you. Now, for the next 2020 Congress, here we go. Sound? Can we have the sound? Boleh diulang, Mas? Ya. Boleh diulang dari depan? Ya.
A land of nurture and nature. Of art and architecture. A country of elegant serenity, where the wisdom of the past informs the most contemporary of visions. A place most exceedingly rare.
Where in the world does a country go back to their past to build their future and seek inspiration from their people? Where can 15 centuries of art be explored in a single day? And where can you catch your breath and have it taken away at the same time? Where does the land not only meet the sea, but surround it? And nature's hidden treasures come to life. Where in the world do artists work with the land and not against it? And where can you feast your eyes and soul and dine under a blanket of infinite stars? Where do you find borders as open as the skies and the hearts of their people? And where are you welcome with a spirit of warmth? Qatar, curated for you.
I'd like to invite Slavek, come over, and Andy. Where's Andy? Andy, can you come back over to the stage? Where's Andy? So just a quick thank you, Slavek, for having this Congress from the Jakarta team, and I think we had I think all know that we had a really great Congress. Congratulations, thank you.
And thank you, everyone, for having us and IAP, Indonesia, Jakarta, Bogor. It's been, I think, a good one.
So, you would like to have a picture of the Qatari team. Please come forward. This is your host for the 2020 Congress. Thank you. Oh, thank you. So we are now at the end of our Congress. I would like to invite Martin to say a few words and to end this Congress for us. And you have to be quick because you are standing between us and dinner and party. Okay? So we're getting ready, a speech to get ready for the party.
Well, what can I say? After such a nice and successful Congress, what can I say with so many young planning professionals joining at our Congress? Some members and non-members have asked me what is the secret of ISOCARP. I can tell you what is the secret of ISOCARP. That are our network with the young planning professionals, because they keep us alive. They give us new and fresh ideas. And I think that is one of the major assets of our society. That we are a network of professionals and cities and universities and institutions, that's fine. But without the young planning professionals, it would be a much more boring situation. I truly think that this Congress was a success. It ended also in an elevating and important declaration that we all, of course, fully support. And I can say that although it is in November next year, so that is in 14 months from now, the Congress in Doha will then take place. I cannot say, I must admit that I cannot wait until the next Congress in Qatar, November 2020. See you there. Thank you very much. And I look forward to meet you all at the farewell dinner tonight. Thank you very much.
Okay, guys, party time. The bus will leave, what time? I think in 6 o'clock, so they start the first bus. Yeah, and it will be somehow, it's by the beach, so be casual, and I think we are good. And the governor will be there with us, and there will be some fun time, I guess. And for you who have not met the governor during the technical tour, we can get there, be there, and network among us. So again, have fun and have a great dinner tonight. We have enough bus for everybody, so please come to the dinner. We have enough buses. And let's rock.